Okay. The official go from Steve. Letting Mo into the room. We can get going. So, good morning, good day, everyone. Last day of Halves this Wednesday. We have 6 teams going. For those of you, I don't know if we have any guests. I can't recall if I let anybody clients in, but you got 15 minutes to go. Tell us what you're up to. Where are you going to go? You'll have 5 minutes Q&A. Dave will help moderate in the chat. If you're not presenting, if you could please just keep mics and cameras off so we get good connection for the people who are presenting. And if you are VESP, if you could turn your cameras on so I can see you, I will put you in. I already see some of you. I'll get you in there in just a second. Then we'll go with VESP, then Impacteers, AllClear, Exposé, CivRep, and we'll end with Archive Dive. So let me find the VESP crowd.
Jack, you're muted.
My background went away. Wait, hold on. Can I try rejoining? One sec.
We're going to keep Jack out. Is that all right, team?
Just our producer. Doesn't matter.
No need to.
Which Jack's animal spirit?
Squid.
Squid.
Is it now? Interesting.
There he is.
He came back. We're all okay.
I'm gonna start calling Jack Calamari.
All right. So you're all good to go. You're all up and running whenever you're ready.
I think screen sharing is disabled. Okay. Yeah, we're good. Okay.
All right. Hello, everybody. We are VESP, which stands for Virtual Extended Sensory Palette.
I'm Stephanie Taskas, and I'm the shader programmer.
I'm Louis Quinn. I'm the general programmer.
I'm Sofia Vidova. I'm the technical artist and rigger.
I'm Jack Wesson, the design director and producer.
I'm Noah Kekanella, our sound designer and composer. And our faculty advisors are Carl Rosendahl and Heather Kelly.
All right, so take a deep breath, put on your headphones. This is stereo audio playing through, and this is our first demo, so here we go.
An elephant can pick up on infrasonic noise. This is a kind of noise that falls beneath a human's range of hearing that might feel like vibrations instead of sound. For example, humans' ears pick up on an elephant's call up to 1 kilometer away. But there's a lower sound that can travel much, much farther through rumbles in the ground. This is how you'll find your family. Lead this lost elephant by walking around your room. But you don't want to lead it into a lion's den or a poacher's camp. Feel and hear the infrasonic sound by placing your hands on the ground, and go find your family.
Okay, so that was our demo. That's our most recent demo. And just to say that we were a student pitch project, and we were really excited to bring this to you guys. We started out really abstract, but now we've kind of come to animals and our passion for them, which led us to our core goal, which is?
In essence, we are building an edutainment experience that brings real animal senses to people through virtual reality.
We all care deeply about animals and the environment, and we want more people to be interested too. So we're targeting tweens to get them to engage with science passionately and to learn as a result of genuine interest in the experience that we're making. In order to make it, we're focusing on innovation, prototyping, gameplay, and interactivity.
To start off, we did multiple prototypes. We tried to differ them as much as we could, such as through scale of the world, method of locomotion, different environments, and how we translate their senses to human senses, so that we could try out different ideas and see what could and couldn't work. Ultimately, we plan to use this information in our final work, by picking and choosing the best bits and pieces from our past work and integrating them together to deliver an engaging experience, which showcases the differences between the various animals and senses. For related work, we gained information from 3 main avenues. From past EDC projects, we gained tips on how to rapid prototype and try out new things. From commercial products, we saw some methods of how people have already tried interpreting these senses. And from research papers, we learned how animals perceive their environment.
Through our research, we explored a vast array of animal senses. We narrowed our list down to these choices to achieve a diverse range of sense capabilities.
In order to pick these animals and senses, we used the following rules. It needed to be undetectable by human beings currently, had to be mappable to human senses in the VR headset, so it had to have some sort of auditory, visual, proprioceptive, or haptic output that we could show. Next, it needed to be undiscomforting, which is a word we made up. So, for example, we wouldn't focus on 2 different eyes of a chameleon and make someone very uncomfortable while playing. And lastly, it had to have verisimilitude, which means it needs to be as close as possible to the original sense. So that's how we got to the animals Noah mentioned.
After we figured out how to select a sense, we narrowed down our animals to these 4 during the first half of the semester. Each animal has a unique sense, and their interactions with their environment map easily to our own sensory channels in VR.
And that's actually how we set up our weekly breakdown. Each week and a half or so was one of these animals, each in a sprint, which led us to halves. And as Lewis said, every sprint gave us different ways to prototype. So we're going to pick and choose those best and brightest components and then construct an experience that we've already started designing based around some of these animals in a final complete way.
For each of our prototypes, they were based on this following Mad Lib: you and an animal pursue an objective using a sense.
Our first prototype allowed the guest and a bat to pursue moths in the jungle using echolocation, and we have a video to showcase that. In this video, there's a single bat in the scene, and it'll follow your controller as you move it around in 3D space. The triggers also allow you to adjust the frequency and pitch of the call based on our research in bat's echolocation. And once you echolocate, a shader that we built custom will illuminate the scene and allow you to see moths in order to eat them. And this is the shader demonstrated here. Oh. Here the bat is actually catching moths. For this prototype, we had to figure out how to change our environment since it seemed a little dark, and otherwise figuring out another way to interact with the animal.
For our second prototype, you and a bee pursue pollen using electroreception. We have a video for this experience as well. In this experience, you actually play as the bee, flying around collecting pollen in a field of flowers. You have an intricate flying mechanism where you need to stretch out your arms and fly like an aeroplane to control your movement. There are other bees in the environment, also going around from flower to flower collecting pollen. Bees have the power of electroreception, which is the ability to sense electric charges in objects. Flowers build up positive charge from being in sunlight, which attracts the negative charge that bees build up from flying around. Flowers that have been untouched by other bees for longer periods of time build up a larger charge, increasing their attraction. We visualize the electric charge of flowers by how bright they are, maxing out at a vibrant magenta. Once a bee lands on one of these flowers, the charge is neutralized, and the flower visually turns a yellowish shade instead. This was the second prototype which we showed at quarters. We received comments about our usage of visual effects to showcase the sense, which is more of a physical, feely sensation. We also received comments about how the movement was a bit complicated and involved, which detracted from experiencing the sense, which is important to our project.
Yes, so as Lewis said, we did get that feedback. We didn't want to detract from our experience. And so we made a lot of improvements based on what happened in quarters. And the first adjustment was we didn't go with what we had just seen where you were the bee. We decided that it was too involved. And we instead paired up an animal with a person to do it in third person, sort of, to do it together. And additionally, we had a docent, which is something that you heard in the elephant experience. So that docent was what explained the experience to the user. And that was something that we added in because people said that they were confused or didn't know exactly what the experience meant, especially with the kind of nuanced sensory capabilities that we were adding in. Additionally, we had originally planned on making this for one animal and taking that experience out to completion. Now we're doing 3. We got the feedback that it didn't really show the sensory palette when we were just choosing one. So this is a more unified sensory palette now with 3 different animals as our final product. Additionally, as Lewis said, we focused a lot on visuals. That was a feely sense for the bee. We wanted to actually emphasize that more. That's why in the elephant experience, you heard sounds and felt the haptics a lot more. And that was the only way to guide yourself, although there were visuals too, to kind of give a depth and breadth to the sensory palette we chose. We wish we could have taken a dog up. We know we got that feedback. Unfortunately, we don't think we have enough time. It's a little bit out of scope, but if we have time at the end, it would be good to have one sort of more regular animal to compare these things to. So we would like to put that in, but it's probably unlikely. Additionally, we were asked why the bat saw anything, given that they're blind. We felt like a all black experience with just a bat echolocating would be a little bit lame for us to use. So we felt like because this is edutainment and entertaining is an important part of this, that we would not do that, even though it is obviously more realistic. For the unfortunate notion of COVID, we could not distribute this as much as we'd like to at a zoo or a museum like we had planned. Unfortunately, that is unlikely to be able to be implemented well. We're targeting festivals instead, but we're still keeping the genre alive of a museum or a zoo experience. So it's still kind of honing exactly what we're thinking about.
After quarters, we finished our squid prototype for the 3rd sprint. The premise is that you and a squid pursue refuge using polarized light and chromatophores. So you help a squid hide from a hungry predator by camouflaging amongst the seafloor. We also added a docent to this, just like in the elephant prototype, based on feedback from quarters that Jack talked about. Now we'll play the video.
North Atlantic. Welcome to the shallow waters of the North Atlantic. Swim by pulling back with your right hand. The squid will fill up with water like a balloon. When you release your hand, the squid will propel forward in the opposite direction. Try camouflaging using the materials nearby. Just like human beings can focus their eyes on different depths of field, squid pupils have an incredible ability to manually focus on different colors and qualities of light in their environment, in spite of the fact that they are colorblind. If you are a squid, you can detect exact characteristics of the surfaces around you. Chromatophores on your arms and body cells will become another color to protect you from predators, fish, sharks, and even your fellow squid. Ever want to pass secret notes in class without getting caught? Squid can do just that. But instead of sharing secrets about your friend's crush on notebook paper, you can communicate with fellow squid using polarization, creating patterns on your body that are invisible to whoever you choose, like invisible ink.
In our fourth sprint, you and an elephant pursue its herd using infrasound. If you can recall, we showcased this demo at the beginning of the presentation. In this sprint, we incorporated faculty feedback with increasing emphasis on proprioceptive, haptic, and sonic feedback channels. In this experience, the guest bends over and places their hands on the ground to perceive, feel, and hear the infrasonic calls and movement of the herd, which manifest as rumbles and bellowing roars. This allows the guest to develop a spatial understanding of where the herd is and take the elephant back to its home. And now Jack will talk about our user testing experiences.
Or lack thereof, unfortunately. We have had the opportunity to test with the people in our pods and our family, but we would love to expand that circle and get more feedback. And obviously we're planning to expand this as things open up. But if you can help us, we'd love your help. If you have a VR headset at home, especially a Valve Index or a Vive, we'd really appreciate your help. With an Oculus Rift, we can probably make something work too. If you're interested, our contact info is at the end. Please reach out. We'd love to have you test. Thanks in advance. Just to talk about our timeline really quick, we had mentioned that we took what was originally a plan for half and half to do half prototyping, half proof of concept with one animal that we took to completion. This is our new adapted timeline. So you'll notice we have a lot more time for planning and implementing this final experience. We had a lot less time for rapid prototyping, which is good because it gave us a lot more of an exploration phase in depth, which let us figure out exactly how we wanted to create this gray box experience now. So we actually have the designs all planned out and we're implementing that already and building this kind of combined experience. Obviously, we also moved from 1 to 3, which is partially why that time expanded, so that when we publish and have festival submissions, it'll look a little bit more polished. And it's good that we picked the 3 that we did. You'll notice it was the bat, the squid, and the elephant, which are convenient because when we do eliminate the bee from these, they actually map really well to the channels Steph mentioned earlier, where there's proprioceptives and haptics in the elephant, auditory for the bat, and the visuals in the squid.
Just like Jack had mentioned, at the end of the semester, we're going to have a more polished final deliverable that we can possibly submit to exhibition spaces such as South by Southwest and ACM SIGGRAPH, and the documentation we've been keeping can be useful to online platforms such as Gamasutra.
In summary, we started by completing 2 prototypes. We had quarters after that, and we got feedback from the faculty. We continued our progress and completed 2 more prototypes, keeping that feedback in mind. We are now moving into our second half of the semester, where we will be working on our proof of concept and documentation for our final experience.
We're proud of our work thus far and grateful for all the help we have received along the way. Thank you to Jessica Hammer for connecting us with HCI subject matter experts, Ruth Comley for her trailer design advice, Johannes de Jong for design advice, Lance Chantilles for giving us the If Magic sensor, and Sarah Schreck for her AI docent voice acting.
Also, thank you for watching our presentation. We're now open for questions, and I will be posting the video links right now.
All right, great job, team. Congratulations. So if anybody has any questions, throw them in the chat and they can help moderate. Chris, you have one.
Yeah, I just in your initial bit about the elephant, you talked about holding your hands and touching the ground as a way to feel those vibrations. It was a really wonderful, compelling moment. But I'm assuming that you're not really having the user touch the ground, right? So what's your analog for that in that particular situation?
We actually are having the user touch the ground. We made 2 versions, one of which is accessible, where you can hold down the triggers and you do feel the ground for someone who can't touch the ground or lean over and touch it. But for the people who do want to and like be an elephant or feel it on the ground, it does reward you touching the ground, feeling it, the contact, and then vibrating on the ground. With
to clarify, we are still holding controllers. So we check if the controllers are close enough to the ground, and then the controls will be the vibration that you feel. So under
I admit I am stuck at that fine point because the energy transfer between you and the ground in real life is very different than holding a controller. And so I felt a little weird when you said that, because I was assuming it was the controller, but okay. I appreciate your answer. Thank you.
Mo, you got a question?
Can we pull up the Mad Lib slide again? The kind of user story slide. I just wanted to look at that again. Maybe someone else has another question in the meantime. Okay, I can ask a question if no one else is. I thought there was a great moment as well. I forget what the demo was. Oh yes, the squid, where you're talking about squid, and then you said, imagine passing notes in class like a squid. I think that kind of thinking is very important for you, and I can imagine reaching a point in each of these demos where you kind of wipe the scenery and can create an experience around these animal senses that kind of has nothing to do with the animal, but totally relating to your audience. Do you have any thoughts about pursuing anything like that? Or is it all straightforward? You're an animal, an elephant in the savannah, or a squid underwater. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, no, you're totally right. That is absolutely what we're looking for in our final experience. We actually just met with one of these subject matter experts, Judith, who Jessica Hammer connected us with, who does all this work with like co-robots and kind of connecting people with like an analog that they can work with. That's an AI. So we were talking about that and how to get children engaged and kind of making this relevant to something that they care about. So we've been thinking a lot about this, and a lot of it does have to be something that relates, because a kid is not going to care about infrasonic on its own merit, unfortunately. They'll like it, but to get them to be interested, we have to connect it to something that they like. So when we do make our final experience, we're planning to add stuff in that does correspond this to something that we understand and that we can imagine using in like a very real world.
Right. So I think this Mad Lib works well. It's kind of a user story for the first part of your experience. I think you could then reformat that. I don't know what that would be on the fly. You don't have to try to do that on the fly, but.
Ricardo, you got a question?
Actually, we're at time. Sorry. Got to move on to the next one. So congratulations, team. Good job. Way to finish. If you could turn off your mics and turn off your cameras. And Impacteers, if you could do the opposite and turn on your mics and cameras, and I'll find you. All right, that's everyone. Whenever you all are ready.
Can you see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay. So, hello everyone. We are Team Impacteers, and this is our house presentation. This is our goal, which is to inspire African-American students in junior high, 12 to 14-year-old to be precise, to think about STEAM, which is science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics, as potential future career paths. We think that right now, people in our target demographic don't think that these career options are tailored for them. And that is what we would like to address through the means of the experience that we create. So this is our team. Aubrey and Ifan are the UI and UX designers. Me, Ram, is the producer. Runjao and Z are the programmers. Mike and Brenda are the faculty instructors. And here are our clients, Damola and Wale Idowu. This is a father-son duo of engineers, creatives, and entrepreneurs with fascinating backgrounds. And together, they run the company Toys Electronics, which they co-founded. This company is focused on providing education, resources, and opportunities to young adults. Damola is an internationally known rapper who has traveled to many countries for his rap music. He is also an engineer and was inspired to become an engineer by watching the sci-fi show Knight Rider, and he was enthralled by the idea of a self-driving car. Wale is a child prodigy who came to CMU at the age of 15. He then graduated at the age of 20 with a degree in electrical and computer engineering. He then went on to work at Electronic Arts, and currently he's working as a software engineer for the company and, of course, the CTO. He also came up with the idea of smart glasses, which we are using in our experience, and it's something that you will hear more of in the coming slides. Together, this is a duo of engineers and passionate entrepreneurs who are driven by their curiosity and, of course, their love for innovation and each other. Here, I should also introduce the superhero character, the Great Deity Da, which was created by Damola. And this is also an important part of the experience that we are planning to create. Also, the target platform for our experience is an Android device. And this is because our clients know that the target demographic has access to mostly an Android device and not so much to a PC or an iOS device.
Thanks, Ram. And I'm going to talk about our initial ideas, which is an interactive graphic novel on bullying. So the story started from a flashback memory, and our parameter gets bullied at school, and his glasses is broken by others. And he focused on theme learning and tried to create his own smart glasses. And this idea got recognized by people and won applause from audience. We designed this storyline based on our client's personal experience to encourage people to focus more on STEAM learning. Next slide, please. And here are some takeaways from quarters. The main concern is that the bullying is unrelated to the STEAM education, and the bullying story is hard to inspire every audience. And also, there are many other systematic barriers to succeeding in STEM. So we decided to rewrite the storyline and make it into more scientific experience.
So instead of making an interactive graphic novel, we decided to make a story-driven experience packed with minigames in which players play through stages of minigames. The context of the story is that you, the player, are the neighborhood's favorite superhero, the Great Deity Da's son/assistant. There are a lot of tasks, including but not limited to study, maintenance, fighting bullies, and engineering. It's another day in the neighborhood. Your father goes out for a mission and leaves you a note on the door of the lab, in which you and your father develop state-of-the-art technologies to fight villains and help the community. You enter the lab and find out that there's a futuristic car that looks unfinished, and you decided to fix and upgrade it. Here, the player will enter the first minigame, which is a pathfinding puzzle. You need to train and integrate the autopilot system of the car. Ziyi will talk about it in detail later. There will be multiple levels of difficulty provided also for the minigame. The reason we choose car as the medium of our first minigame is because our client is a huge car person. In addition, a lot of the recent technology breakthroughs actually happen on cars, like clean energy, artificial intelligence, and more. We think that it will be an effective approach to get teenagers into this field of technology, and we want to envision what will be achieved in the future for the user. Going to the next scene, we actually go back to one of the memories of the character, where he spent his childhood with his father in his music studio. The minigame will be a rhythm game featuring some of the jazz fusion our client has made in the past. And we use this flashback as our second major scene because this is a really important part of the story of our client. We want to use some of the original music he made in the past to strengthen this fuzzy and song love. And in addition, the music also helps attract African Americans as our target audience. The third interaction we are going to make is this smart glasses thing. And we were inspired to make this thing because our client Wally actually had won a competition by introducing his idea and plan of making smart glasses before he goes to Carnegie Mellon University. We figured this will be also making a strong impact on our users because smart glasses are heavily related to STEM, and it will be a thing in the future. Aubrey will talk more about the interactions of this scene later.
Thanks, Peter. I will talk about our current demo we have. First is our story part, that is going to be like this 2D comic book styles. There are not many interactions are needed, and for the audio for this part, we will do the voiceover. By clicking next, player will go to this lab scene. And from this scene, we will switch to different mini games. And for each scene afterwards, we will use the background music that provided by our client. Talking more about the interactions part, the first interactions is going to be this puzzle game. The goal of this game is to connect the path using these two tiles from start to end, and at the same time, as you can see, there are numbers on each tile ground. And that's the reason that players cannot find a random path. They have to find the exact path, and when sums up all the numbers along the way, it will equal to our goal number indicated on the upper left corner of the screen. And speaking more on the technical part of this puzzle game, it is now implemented in a highly customizable way, and all the numbers are randomly assigned, so the players will have solved for a different problem each time they replay this. And also, we could change the size of this grid map and make it more difficult or easier, as shown on the right side of the screen. And also, for the number set as goal number on the upper left corner, it is currently set as the shortest path, but we can also do the change on that. Some future plans for this interaction contains adding a time limit for this. Instead of having an exact path, we will have a special value for the goal number and allow multiple answers for this puzzle. The next interaction is this rhythm game. So there are several mainstream designs for rhythm games, but we choose this jumping from top to down style after consulting with some rhythm game hobbyists. This is a rough prototype still, but all the functions are ready. The design of the interaction is read a file that contains the time and position information for the dropping blocks, so we can easily blend the different songs provided by our client into this game without much effort. And it is easy for us to design and pass different maps for the rhythm game. The maps means different combination of decisions on what music note or which channel we want the block to drop and so on. The notes will be designed to simulate some of the actual instrument's notes. For example, when a player hears piano playing the music, he will expect some blocks dropping from top of the screen and following the rhythm of the piano. And this will happen throughout the music, not only for piano, but also bass, drum, and so on. Some future plans and updates for this interaction is of course improve the art asset and having more styles of dropping blocks, something that requires players to do more than a tap. There will be drag or double tap and using multiple fingers to touch the screen at the same time. We are also considering switching from top down to left to right for different sessions of one piece of music during the game. And for now, all the interactions are tested on PC, but the design is based on a simulation of a touch screen, which includes mostly tap and drag, and we will start to test on actual mobile phones in short future.
Thanks, Lee. I'm going to introduce our next half of semester. In the next half of the semester, we're going to include interaction number 3, which is the creation process of building smart glasses. This interaction will be inspirational since it was actually came from Wally's real life experience. At the same time, building smart glasses will guide our player to further understand the relationship between technology and the daily materials. The interaction of building the smart glasses will connect Wally's high school pitch with AR and GPS. After the player complete the puzzle of putting all parts of the glasses together, the glasses will notify where the mission is at and how to get there with GPS. Thus, we'd like to introduce you our future plan. We're going to make interaction number 2 and opening scenes and playtest in week 8. And in week 9, we're going to do interaction number 3 and the ending scenes with playtest. And we're going to do iterations on interactions with our playtest in week 10. And then comes to our week 11, we're going to do iterations on storytelling and playtest. And we're going to have a big round of playtests with with our high school targeted demographics in week 12. And then we are going to organize the final deliverable and pass it to our client in week 13. And then there comes to our final presentation in week 14. At the end of this presentation, we'd like to share you our matrix again. We've followed more clients' requirements and interactivities of our design the most. And at the same time, we intend to use our storytelling and transformational design to introduce more African American in high school in middle school to the STEM. To summarize the presentation, our projects intend to inspire African American students in junior high, which is 12 to 14 years old, to think about STEM as a potential future career path. And we're working on creating mini games to drive this experience. This is our presentation, and now we're open to questions.
All right, congratulations, team. Good job. And questions in chat. Ricardo, you already have one. Feel free to go, and Dave will help moderate.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Good job, team. I love the idea of a superhero and his, and his sidekick son. Really good idea. I have a question about: are you leveraging that to introduce things like mentors for each of the experiences? So not just a superhero single, but a team of heroes. And if you need help solving one of the puzzles, or maybe one of them can give you information. And so, have you guys thought about anything like that? Because one thing that we talked about was just the importance of not just one person on the STEAM journey, but different mentors feeding into your life as you go along.
So there is, it's a little bit related to what you're saying, is that for our third interaction, what we really want to show is that you sort of are done with fixing the car, and then you come up with something of your own. And that is where the smart glasses come in, which is more like, you have already fulfilled everything that your father wants, and now it's like your turn to come up with your own idea, and then you come up with the idea of smart glasses. I know it's not 100% relevant to the point that you mentioned, but yeah, I just thought of saying that. Apart from that, right now we are only focusing on 2 characters, but I mean, I do think that you have a good point there.
John?
Hey team, so do you have a schedule set out with Assemble yet for playtesting?
Not yet, actually. We don't.
You should probably get that going, and that's the loaded question, because that will be your target demographic.
Right. Okay.
I got a quick question. So you've got playtesting coming up. I'm kind of curious, what are you going to be looking for in the playtesting for evidence that your transformational goal is has a chance of working?
I think I can take that. So from the interaction point of view, the thing we are looking for playtesting is first to see if these puzzles and these interaction games are enjoyable, or is it too difficult, or is like too easy. Because we want our target demographic to have a sense of accomplishment when they after playing these, especially these puzzle games, including some math techniques, and they have to like think about how to play this game instead of like seeing the answer directly. So the one thing we are trying to find is how the difficulty is, so we can adjust that. And also, is this puzzle like too easy for them to have a sense of accomplishment, or is it too hard and they will like get bored of calculating all the numbers? I think this is one of the things we will be looking for.
Thanks.
Time for one more. All right, congratulations, team. Good job, way to go. So, you know the drill. If you can turn your cameras and mics off, we'll get you unspotlit, and then I have all clear. Can get going. We'll get you all spotlit for your presentation. All right, that's all of you. Whenever you're ready.
Cool. Let me just quickly. Can you guys all see my screen?
Yes.
Cool. I guess we'll just get started then. So yeah, hi guys. This is the team AllClear, and this is our team members. And we have Scott and Tom as our instructors. Jessica Hammer and Pete Hill are our clients. And before anyone say anything, let me just give you guys a brief introduction about our project. So the motivation of this project is the fact that we have so many landmines deployed on Earth each year, and only 10,000 of them are removed annually, which means we have a gigantic amount of landmines left unguarded in the ground, which can potentially prevent people from moving into an area and maybe a farmer from growing their food, which can be a really serious issue. And the problem with it is the fact that most of current demining solutions are quite expensive. We need to hire dedicated personnel, shipping things all around the world, train animals like dogs or rats to do the landmine detections. So they all cost a lot of money. Besides, if we are using real animal and personnel on the field, the casualty rate can be really high, which is something we really want to avoid. So with that in mind, we have a better solution in the future. It's called e-demining. The idea of this solution is the fact that a couple of engineers or technicians are going to remotely control some demining robots through the network, so that the demining process can go anywhere on the world very efficiently. And by using only the remote robots, if something messed up, only the robots will blow up. No one will actually get hurt. And we also can able to cut a lot of like shipping costs or other intermediate process to reduce the cost for this solution. And yeah, that's the motivation for this project. And the initial project pitched by our clients actually has three phases. The first phase is to actually just learn the basic of e-demining or the demining process as a general. And the second phase is going to be interacting with some small robots within a small area with some fake landmines. And of course, the project's final stage is going to be remove real landmines in real world and dealing with real demining robots. And as far as our project is concerned, we are only concerning about the first phase, which is to learn the basic of ED mining. And with all this information being said, our project mainly has two goals. The first goal is to create a cooperative multiplayer game where two players are going to work together to demine landmine fields. And our game is going to be heavily game focused, which means we are not going to make a simulation software that realistically mimic the physical behavior of landmines or any mining robots. And also, like the client, in the end, the clients are planning to use this game to reach out for future funding to see if it can get people's attention or people's interest. And that leads to our second goal, which is to actually increase the audience awareness of the landmine issues around the world, and also the interest in the demining process. Also, we want to show them how e-demining can be a possible solution in the future. And our target audience is going to be mainly focused on strategy game players who enjoy planning and managing resources. And also we want to attract co-op players who like to maybe social with their friends, both on the internet or locally. And with that all of the information, let Neil first talk about the gameplay system of our game.
Sure. So basically in our game, two players need to cooperate with each other to clear a field of landmines. We decided to combine a turn-based system and real-time action system because we want the players to enjoy some strategy gameplay, while also can experience the real demining process in 3D world. In that sense, we designed we have like a turn-based system where players can share and distribute resources, and also they can control robots within turns to demine in first-person view. In our game, for each game, the players will have like a certain number of robots with different functionalities. For example, some can detecting landmines, some can dig, some can fix other robots, and some can clear the plants. And within each game, the players will be given a certain number of batteries in that, which is used to activate robots. And other movements of the robots, including moving, detecting, and demining, will consume a certain energy in the battery. And once the battery power goes to zero, they cannot control the robot anymore unless they assign a new battery to the robot. Once both of the players use all of the batteries, the player's turn will end, and NPC will start to move, and some random events will happen. This cycle will continue until the players finish their goals or they fails. In the real 3D world, the players can control the robot to move around and play some mini games to detect, dig, and detonate landmines. They can also ping information in the real 3D world, such as the landmine's location, and this information will be updated in the tactical map, which is shown before, and so that both the player can communicate non-verbally throughout the game. That's basically all of the idea of our gameplay. The next Mingtan is going to show us a quick demo of what we have implemented in Unreal Engine.
Thank you, Neil. Sorry. So before we come into the actual video, I want to talk about our tech stack. So we use Unreal Engine as our gameplay as our game engine because we want better modular code control, and we decide to use delegate server instead of listen server for networking components because we want it's easier to scalable to even more player playing the game at the same time. So let's start with the video. Yes, so before you come into the actual gameplay, you enter this tactical map phase. This is the planning phase where you and your partner are going to plan out how to distribute the batteries to different robots and which robot you're going to possess. So as you can see from the right side, there is a mini map which will in real time update the robot's position. And what you can do is you can drag the battery on the top left to the different robots, and that will allow you to assign the battery to the robot and also possess the robot and go into the real game. And the little, the smaller window is our other client. After we drag the battery to the robot, we basically possess the robots, and we enter the real game. On the bottom, there is a battery bar which will decrement according to the different movements that different actions that we did. And similarly, we can do the same thing for the other player. And after we came into the real world, there are two main things that we want to do. Is first to detect the hidden landmine, and second is to dig the landmines out. So we have a special button right now, temporarily, just to detect the landmines right in front of you. And after you targeting the mine, you enter a mini game, which is a QTE game. You have to stop at you have to stop between the dig bar so that you can successfully demine the current landmine. So here you click the button, it reviews the hidden landmines, and if you prematurely dig the bomb, this will result in the bomb exploding, and if you are too close to the radius, you'll end up blowing yourself up. And that's the end of the gameplay. And next we'll have we'll have Tianying to talk about the UI and arts.
Sure. And since we only have one artist in the team, we need to go for a low poly 3D model and use colorful palette to bring out the sense of enlightenment and hope. And here is our mood board. So here's our robot in the digger mode. The arms of the robot is going to be transformed into different functionalities throughout the game. And next, here is a model of a little John. It is a mentor and friend to the players, so we have the eyes exaggerated to show its friendliness. And then we have a style frame of our UI assets. So we want it to represent a vision of the future the mining technology. And then we are not a script heavy game, but we want to use the story to bring in some human factors. So in the start of the game, the two players is going to wake up in their own home with the little John beside them. And then they hear the sound of the door. A lady from the neighborhood comes to visit. She asks the players to help her clear a path so that she can deliver the flowers to her friend, Mia, to celebrate his birthday. Then it turns out that Mia has actually died 3 years ago in a war. The lady thanks the players for helping her to deliver the flower and leave the flower in front of the tombs. Then they hear some sound coming back. It turns out to be two little brothers who live in a temporary shelter beside the tombs. Then in level 2, the players help them to clear landmines of their old house so that they can move back in and rebuild their home there. Then people start to coming back to these old habitats. And after several months, the players come back to this little town and they see a merchant surrounded by people arguing that the water is too expensive. Then the players help them in level 3 by clearing out the landmines of the merchant roads of the desert so that the water can be restored at lower cost and people use the water to make their home green again. So that's all about our story. Next, Sherry is going to walk us through about our design process.
So we first started with a 2-player turn-based strategy board game in the Google spreadsheet. And in this prototype, players are given limited action points that they can spend on different robots to move around and performing demining actions each turn. And their goal is to make the most of these action points to clear all the landmines in a 9x9 grid as fast as possible. There will also be a timed NPC side quest in the middle of the game that might change our player's strategy and add new urgency to the game. So after 2 rounds of playtesting, we made some adjustments according to our players' feedback. First, we shrank the map to a 7x7 grid for a shorter length, and we added more type of robots and random events to provide more variety and fun for our players. We also gained inspirations for our extra game. For example, our players felt a strong sense of collaboration, and they really enjoyed it a lot when discussing strategy with each other. Also, they showed great curiosity about how people and robots actually demine in real life. So based on these observations, we started from moving from the paper prototype to the actual video game. The first design decision we made was to keep the core game mechanism, namely the turn-based and strategy elements, because our players liked it a lot. We also decided to put flesh on the abstract demining process in the board game prototype. We did so by adding real-time interactions and mini-games in the 3D world that reflect the real-life demining actions. For example, an important step in the demining is to probe the size of the potential landmines with a prodder to check the accurate location and the depth before excavation. And the miners must be very careful not to press too hard on it, or they might just detonate it. As Minton just showed you in the demo, we chose a quick time event to represent this process in our game. Players have to stop the prodder with precise timing to locate the landmine safely. So in terms of our level design, we follow 2 principles. The first is that we try to design for a more compelling story. As Ting just mentioned before, our second level is set in a war-torn city background. So in this level, apart from the real landmines, players might find things like an understuffed toy bear or a family picture buried in the ruins that echoes with our background story. We also aim for a gentle learning curve for this level. So although we might have variety in our game, we try to introduce them into our game step by step. Now I'll hand over to Max to talk about the future timeline.
Thanks so much, Sherry. So the general timeline, like by the end of week 9, we plan to finish our first level with all the basic functionalities, and so that we can begin our playtesting right away. And by the week 12, we are going to plan to finish all 3 levels we propose in the presentation and start doing some polishment based on the feedback from previous playtesting and also feedback from clients. And week 13 is going to be our soft opening, and the team will use the rest of 2 weeks of the semester to do some final polishment and create some design and tech doc and ready for the client's hands-off. So yeah, that's it. We are Team AllClear and we are open for questions.
All right, good job, team. Congratulations. So any questions, throw them in the chat or raise your hand and Dave can help moderate.
I've got a question. So in the one last slide, you talked about the design principles for level design. I'm kind of curious if you have overall design principles for this game, particularly with regard to what is it about a game-like experience that you're using to guide the iteration of this? Like why is a game-like approach the right approach for this project?
So basically we try to analyze like what might be fun or what can be adapted from this like a real demining process that can be fun and used for a game. And we found like maybe we'll just start with a board game, because strategy, if you want to demine a field like very efficiently, the 2 most important thing is like the strategy, like how you can go clear the mine as fast as possible, and also like the safety or like the precision of your action. So we first tried the first feature with our board game prototype, and we found that it really worked well. Our players really liked the strategy game like of demining, and then we tried to add this precision part in. That is like to really perform some action in real 3D world. So we feel like this might be like the main guide or like a right approach to design this game, if that answers your question.
No, that's really helpful. Thank you. Ralph, I think I saw your hand first. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
thanks. Quick question. Yeah, given that this is a serious global issue, and you mentioned that this is for entertainment. Your goal is an entertainment game, a game for entertainment. And given the serious global issue, I'm just wondering if your client has another purpose here, and that's for an educational market or for putting it out there for actually implementing or making people aware in these sort of situations in these countries where they are facing these issues for awareness. I'm not quite sure how I balance the entertainment and the seriousness of the issue here.
Yeah, I guess I can take that. So one thing is that we are going to use the game as a tool so that we can attract audience who are originally passionate about, like passive about this, and make them interested in and want to learn more about ED mining. And another thing is that our clients have pointed out they are going to use this game as a tool so that they can collect funding.
All right, thank you.
Carl, your question?
Yeah, can we see the goals slide again? My thinking line is right along the line of what Ralph just asked. So I'd like to just see that again. Thank you.
Did you have a question beyond this?
No, that was it. Thanks.
Mike, you have a question?
Yeah, can you just tell a little bit more about the audience now that we're seeing these goals? You know, what is their age range? And then a question about the levels. Are the mechanics of the demining equipment going to be more advanced? Are there going to be more capabilities, or is what you're using in level 1 the same as level 3?
I can take the second question. So because currently we only plan 3 levels, and in this 3 levels, like all the robots will be the same, but like maybe in level 1 we'll have like a very like easy terrain, like it can be just bare soil, so you don't really need the vegetation robot, and you might only need like a detection robot or like a digger robot. But later, as the level goes on, we'll have a more complex terrain that you might need a vegetation robot going on, or maybe if you go into a desert, you might find that the weather is so bad that your robots are more likely to break, so you need like 1 more robot to fix them all. So it's a progressive complexity in these levels. And I'm sorry, but what was your first question again?
And who's it for? What age range?
The audience, right? King, if you, I think maybe you can take this question.
Tian, you forgot to unmute.
Yeah, sorry. So our target audience is the age group between like 18 years old and 24 years old. That's the age group that can focus like in this game like with more attention, and also they might be interested in this kind of like future technology. And also we specifically aim to attract the like player types of who are interested in community and strategy.
Thanks.
All right, that's time. Thanks, team.
Thank you.
You did a great job. Good job. Congratulations. So you can turn your mics and cameras off, and if Exposé can turn theirs on, I will find you. Add you. All right, that's all of you. Whenever you're ready.
Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. Good morning, everyone. We are Team Exposé. We're making a game that would teach preteens how to determine the credibility of digital media. This is our team. And our client is Anahita, who is the CEO and co-founder of Ultiria Inc., who focuses mainly on narrative experiences. Their latest endeavor is to put together a website that will have many games centered around media literacy. These are our faculty, Heather and Shirley. And I'll firstly quickly walk you through the overview of the project, and then followed by the design process by Ray, and the development of art and tech pipeline by Shushing and Chin, and the next steps with Aiden. So to begin, our client came to us with a requirement that they wanted us to make an educational game targeted at middle schoolers age range, and to talk about a topic of media literacy. And this would be a standalone game that would be part of the website we just spoke about. And they wanted us to talk about disinformation. Disinformation is the spread of wrong information with an intent to deceive another person or a group of people for a particular agenda. So we asked ourselves, why is this important to teach kids in this age range about disinformation? It's because they start to develop their value system at this age, and they are also extremely vulnerable to outside influence at this age. And with the level of digital media proliferation at this point, it becomes all the more important to talk about this. So these are our project metrics. And now Ray will talk about our design process.
Thank you, Pavan. And yep, before getting to the design, our current design, I wanted to first go through our initial approach. At the very beginning, we were focusing on a one-sentence philosophy of that everyone lies for a purpose. And we want to implement the idea into the middle schoolers' head of a question always to ask themselves before trusting the source of information is, what's the purpose behind that information? So based on this philosophy, we developed a game structure that the player is playing as a criminal police, and by the beginning of every day, there is new incoming evidence, and then the players will go to interrogate 3 suspects, get their testimonies and collect the informations, and then interpret this information to form a daily report and submit to the higher ups. We even thought of that we can make the criminal police himself as one of the suspects during the middle stage of the game, so the players will get involved with the progress of making misinformation spread themselves too. But later, this game structure was done. Next slide, please. Because as an educational game, this system lack of a concrete teaching goal, and it was difficult to assess the transformation. It was more about the entertaining gameplay with the topic of misinformation. So then we go to our current approach. The first thing we did was we refined our teaching goal into something very specific as credibility checking skills. Next slide, please. Okay. And our research based on that is we reached to real media literacy teachers in the middle school and learn how they're actually teaching the middle schoolers. And we found out the way that they're doing is showing the middle schoolers real fake news or bad news websites and tell them what are the visual traits or features of their website, making it untrustworthy. And they're practicing based on this mechanic. Next slide, please. And also they're relying on some learning materials as the CRAAP test worksheets, which is a list of questions that one should ask themselves before trusting a piece of information. And it's categorized in 5 different aspects. But this list is too long and complicated, especially for adults instead of middle schoolers. So we transfer them into our own version as, like this. We want to specifically focus on 3 aspects of the currency, accuracy, and authority. And also we want to tackle the rest 2, relevance and purposes in parallel by our narrative, content, and the story. So derived from this research, our game structure will be a 4-chapter visual novel game. And the first chapter will be tackling the currency because we think this is the easiest one, so we're going to make it as a tutorial. And the chapter 2 and 3 will be tackling authority and accuracy respectively. Finally, for the chapter 4, we want to wrap up everything the players have went through in the game of those 3 aspects and make it the most challenging one, which is also a way of assessment. Next slide, please. Okay, so before jumping into the gameplay, let me first introduce you some premise in the story fantasy. So the players are playing as a student in a fantasy middle school. And there's a thing called Meower. It's a social media where students get involved with their school life and policies. And also it's a place for them to be emotional and irrational because we want to simulate how people are real acting on internet today. And also there is a policy called student urgency. There are usually issues tagged in malware by students demanding student government's official reply. And also Mailgo is a search engine for checking source labels. Next slide, please. And also let me introduce you a main character, Alice. She's the secretary of the student government, and she's a friend of the protagonist, but she always needs help with dealing with the student urgencies. So there we go, we need help her to deal with those challenges. Next slide, please. So finally, the gameplay. At the beginning of each chapter, there's an exploring section. So the player will hang around in the school is a place for them to meet characters. And also it's a place that they're able to hear how those NPC students, so normal students in the school in the hallway are talking about their school lives, and also how they're maybe tackling some topics or ideas that is tackled in that student urgency in that chapter. And then after meeting those characters, they'll be led into the malware. It's a place for them to know what exactly are the student urgencies over there. And that's encountering the events. And after that, they're going to investigate these events. To do that, they will firstly click into the posts in this malware to see what are exactly being posted over there and what are the referred articles over there. And they'll be asked to point out the credibility issues of this article. So after doing that, a claim will generate by nature that is against the urgencies issues. So to bolster that idea, they also need to have the reliable sources. So they will go to the Mailgo and type in the keywords and have a list of search results. From that, they will pick the most reliable one based on their knowledge and skills that's been taught in the game and bookmark it as their reliable source as a supporting evidence. After making these choices, in the other day in the game, they'll go to the mirror again and they can see the student government has officially replied based on the choices they have just made. And under that reply, they can see how students are comments on the solution. If they're buying the solution, or if they're still not satisfying, it's a direct reflect of whether the choices are being made are perfect or somewhat wrong in the previous stages. And I'm gonna show you a demo of the gameplay that I just explained. So that is after talking to the characters, and they'll lead us into malware, and it's a place that we can see the students are posting their student urgency issues over here emotionally. And then we can click into the referred articles to see the details of them. And also they'll be asked to click on the credibility issues that they're finding out. The currency over here is out of date. And after that, they will go to the Mailgo and search for their reliable sources. They're gonna type in the keywords and be given a list of the search results, because this is the tutorial level, so currently it only has one here. And then go into these links to take a closer look at these articles and to make sure they're reliable. And once they make sure about that, bookmark it. So after making their choices, they go to malware again and see how government is replying. And the context of this reply is composed based on their choices. And then they can click into the comments section to see how students are reacting to the reply. And that's the design process. And from here, I will hand it to Ching to talk about the art part.
Thank you, Ray. And for the art part, we start from the early concept. Like we're going to using a smartphone to load the mock SNS platform and also the mock Google on our smartphone. And next. And for the characters part, we start from using the Moodboards to catch the keywords that we're going to create in the characters. And we also to use the system of assign specific colors to each character. So when you're playing the game, you can easily connect the colors to the characters. Next. And this is what we got for the main characters and sub characters. For to increasing the diversity, we're going to use different color tones to represent the people in different race or ethnicity. And we also create the forms to help the designer to think about the characters going to play what kind of role in the game, and also what their relationship with other characters, so we can get the story really to be put with. Next. And really the game is going to be look like we create like some two different early concept of the interface. And so this also help us to think about what art materials we're going to need. The first one is the smartphone, and the second is a character and the main interface like the dialogue frames and the icons going to use in the main interface, and also the third is the background. Next. And this is some UI stats we have already finished. So like what we said, we're going to link the characters with specific color, and the dialogue frame is also follow the same rule. And for the UI assets in the smartphone, we create like different icons for different functions. Like you can use malware and malgo, and you can also to see the characters in the content and also send message with them. Next. And for the malware platform, we have already developed a very complete one, like the really SNS platform. There are some functions may be disabled after play testing, but we have already get this really complete, so we can to use it like in a really immersive smartphone. Next. And this is a like different UI interface. That's when fake news spreading, and we're going to solving the problems. And so these have some different colors and different backgrounds, so you can easily distinguish. Next. And we also have some other visual concepts, like for this animation, we use it as a short storyboard for help us to think about the topic of each chapter. And after we finish all the chapter, we're going to add them to the cutscenes for switching the chapters. And that's for the art part. I'm going to hand it to Shuxing.
Cool. Now let's talk about our tech pipelines. The project will be built in Unity, and it will be a WebGL build that can be pushed directly to the student's Chromebook. Along the way, we'll be collecting their choices made to our Firebase, which we'll later use for assessment on the effectiveness of the project. Now let's talk about the dialogue framework. Because of the heavy text nature of our project, we try to create a fast and easy to use pipeline that can be directly imported from the writer's script into the project with no modification needed. On the left, you see a sample of the script. It also comes with some extra features, such as calling functions in the project or controlling the flow and variables, and also allows the layout, the characters, to be set up automatically and highlighted when they are talking. As for the search engine part, right now it takes the keywords and look through a search engine index. And depending on how many matches there are, it shows the result to your screen. In the future, however, we can include, we can use previous searches to impact how the search order is, or maybe you will notice companies that purchase their website to have a higher search engine order, or they can stack alternative terms to have a higher order. This will be used to challenge the student on their understanding on verifying the credibility of the source. Next, let's have Aidan talk about the next steps.
Thank you, Shuxing. So first I want to talk about our challenges. First is connecting with our audience. Our audience is middle school students. We want them to keep interested. So we're making the in-game events relevant to them and try to make the event not political. And we also need to balance the text and the visual part in the game. Then is our transformational goal, how we measure the success of the transformation. We plan to use the level design to solve this challenge. We would make the latter events in the game harder and needs more information. It needs more information check to see if the player's ability improved. Last but not least, we don't have a writing expertise in our team. For that, we have already asked for help from a SMU student from a creative writing major. Then I will talk about our playtest. Our playtest has three main purposes. First is to see if the students like the anime art style. Then we want to see if they can get the transformational content for the gameplay. And finally, We want to check the live school live theming can connect the students to our game. Then I want to talk about our schedule. The game would have 4 chapters, and each chapter covers one aspect of checking credibility of digital media. And we will do the playtest and iteration along with the development. And finally, we'll do polishment, documentation, and hand off to the clients. We would like to thank these individuals who help us in the journey so far. So for summary, we're Team Exposé. We're teaching preteens how to determine the credibility of digital media. Now we're open for questions.
Okay, congratulations, team. So Chris has a question in the chat. Go for it, Chris, and they can moderate.
Yeah. So one of the challenges you're going to run into in any story-related situation in a game is that users are aware that the infrastructure, given that it's a game on a phone or on a computer, can sometimes result in bugs, which can influence the user's understanding of the veracity of the information. Part of the problem with this kind of story is that you want the user to have their radar highly tuned to really figure out what's true and what's not true. Have you thought of a way to mitigate that risk in the delivery of your information?
If I understand correctly, you're asking how we are going to mitigate the risk of having the user running into issues of the platform itself when they encounter digital media content. Is that
right? Right. You want the user to sort of navigate a space in which some of the information is incorrect, right?
Yes.
Right. And this involves, in the real world, trusting other human beings to be truthful or not, given their original point of view. Their motivation is the word I'm looking for, right?
Right. So what we're going for here is at the end of this experience, we want the student to walk away with the information that there are these set of there are a set of rubric that they can use to check the veracity of the information that they encounter. And most people, you never know who is going to lie and who is not, but we are equipping them with this method to determine whether someone is lying or not. Did that answer your question?
Sort of, yeah. Maybe I can take this offline and talk with you about it separately. Thank you.
I have one more.
Quick question. So I like your strong sense of like what you want the students to learn. I'm just kind of curious, what might you be looking for in playtests that would give you a sense that they are absorbing some of that information?
I can take this one. So in playtests, as we mentioned before, we are looking for whether they are learning the specific topic that we're teaching them. We're teaching them about the currency or date checking, and then the authority checking of the author of the content, and the accuracy itself, which these three combined are only a part of it, where there is another layer for the purpose or intent and the relevance of the post itself. So we are layering it in such a way that we are teaching them the date checking, and then saying, okay, the next step is to check for authority. Because just checking the date is not enough. You would also need to check for the authority and the credibility of the author themselves, and then bring them to a situation where these two things that they've learned are again not enough, and they need one more thing, which is the accuracy checking of the information.
And I guess really quickly, how might you see that in a playtest, and or like what might you not see to give you evidence you need to make it stronger?
We are trying to provide choices such that there is a possibility to go wrong, and we are ranking these choices. As we mentioned before, we are trying to collect this data of the player choices. So we are ranking these choices based on how good they are for the topic that we are teaching.
All right, cool, thanks.
All right, that's time. Congratulations, team. Good job.
Thank you.
So you know the drill. If you can turn your mics and cameras off, we'll get you on spotlit, and then I will get the next team. Oh, I'm losing my cursor. Let's go, CivRep. Where are you? All right, that's all of you. Whenever you're ready.
Okay. So hello, everyone. We are Team CivRep, and welcome to our Halves presentation. This is our team, and our instructors are Dave Silva and John Dessler. CivRep is a discovery client project that will identify critical elements for creating civically engaged citizens through a transformational game. We will explore player behavior and transformational game design in order to discover what best inspires people to become civically engaged. I know this sounds a bit complicated, so I'll give you an example. Let me introduce you to Charlie. Charlie is a senior in college studying geology. Growing up nearby a coal power plant, Charlie has seen the effects of pollution from such energy sources and wants to find renewable alternatives to help out his neighborhood. However, even though he has valuable knowledge that can help out the community, Charlie does not believe that he is in the position to make a change and does not often talk about this topic outside of his social circle. Charlie is a responsible citizen who votes in presidential elections, but he does not know who is on the city council or show interest in local elections. One day, however, he hears about a cool role-playing game and decides to check it out. Charlie enters the game and finds out he's role-playing as a city council representative. He is presented with a bill proposal. Although he's not too familiar with the subject, he picks a committee based on his personal preference and begins to gather information. Along the way, he interacts with in-game citizens, such as by reading their letters, chatting with community members, and listening to the people's voice in public hearings. After some discussion with other reps, Charlie comes to a decision and votes on the bill. Although the final results went against his position, he understands that both sides had merits to their argument. After playing this game, Charlie kind of gets how local government works, and the legislative process is clearer to him now. He feels more comfortable discussing issues with others and also starts paying attention to his local representatives and is thinking about who to vote for in the next election. This is what CivRep is about. We're exploring how transformational game design can help create civically engaged citizens, like Charlie, starting with introducing small initiatives people can take in real life. Here's our agenda for today. After our intro, we'll discuss our research, design progress, and finally talk about playtesting. Our client is Ron Idoko, the Diversity and Multicultural Program Manager at UPIT. Ron has been working on CivWiz, a civic learning project with 3 modules, trivia, word scramble, and role-playing, and held an in-person playtest of it in 2020. He has already begun to develop a mobile version of the trivia and word scramble modules, but has found the role-playing module to be a bit tricky, and this is where we come in. CivRep's goal is to specifically help translate the role-playing module into a virtual environment and explore how it could inspire civic engagement in its players and pass on our findings to help our client achieve its goal of developing a civic learning mobile app. Taking the materials from the in-person multiplayer playtest held last year, we first worked to translate it into a virtual environment, then began to test how we could start incorporating a mobile interface into the experience to prepare prototyping on Air Console. Now we'll talk a bit about our research. The transformational framework is crucial to our design. It helped us define what CivRep's purpose was and identified our next steps to achieving our transformational goals. Our goal, more specifically, is to see our players taking initiatives in real life to become civically engaged. To make this possible, we researched how citizens could engage with local government and discovered there were actually many ways for people to achieve this transformation, as shown in this slide. We also studied the legislative process of local governments, as well as city council procedures, and took aspects from both to structure our game flow. Now, Annie will discuss how the framework supported our design.
Thank you, Yuji. And as mentioned earlier, we began with some materials from our client ROM. They were designed for in-person testing and required step-by-step instructions plus manual calculation for the progress. We first playtested these materials within our team, and we found ourselves very hungry for more information regarding the bill proposals. We thought it was a good start that we started exploring different ways of feeding information into the experience. So as we translated it into virtual playtest settings, we used Google Slides to quickly create visual interface and added in various row backgrounds, given different informations to stimulate the discussion. Next, we further iterate on how the information was given throughout the experience. We started shifting to mobile interfaces by prototyping mockups with Figma. We iterated our slides and simply sent these mockups to our testers' phones through Slack. The testers enjoyed receiving information on their phones while chatting with one another on Zoom. This made us more confident about choosing Air Console as our prototyping platform. These playtests were overall fun and provided us two good directions to proceed, leading us to a crossroads. We have discovered that for our client's final goal, it could go either way, a multiplayer app or a single-player app. Both could make a rather engaging transformational experience, but the context and design would be greatly different as shown on the screen. After discussing with our client, we decided to go with the more exciting one, which is to go for a single-player app that translates the fun and discussion from an original multiplayer experience. Why is it the exciting one? Because we will be prototyping experimental settings with multiple players to explore how human-to-human interactions can be converted into a single-player experience. We want to observe interplayer behavior and their conversations and ultimately simulate these key moments in a single-player environment. We chose to use Air Console because it's ideal for rapid prototyping. It also allows us to keep a shared screen for observation while giving individual control to each tester during our playtests. Going forward, here are some of the design concepts we're targeting, and we'll go through them one by one and explain why they're important to us. Role-play a rep. Here are some actions we're experimenting with to build up the role-playing experience. Players will have time to research as a special committee member about the proposal. In the clip, you can see that players are moving around to collect information through the mailbox, the map, and the computer. These all indicate actual ways in real life for citizens to reach out to their representatives. We also explored the design of a public hearing. It demonstrated the real-life legislative process and also brought in more citizens' personal anecdotes on the bill proposal. Finally, everyone gets to vote on the bill through their phone controllers and see their final result on the share screen. Besides these actions, we've also been experimenting with personal metrics that indicates the growth of the characters they're playing. We've learned that it's important to allow players to maintain their personal opinions to a certain extent regarding the subjects. So instead of role-playing someone else, we let them choose their own names to grow with the character. And we plan to explore how these metrics and the actions mentioned earlier can be more immersive and engaging. Next, due to the nature of our game, it is very, very information heavy. We're looking to convert the sharing of information between multiple players into a single player experience, meaning reading and engaging with the content. We're also exploring different narratives and visualizations to reinforce empathy while conveying information, such as using conversation interface when visiting the institutions. We also learned that it is more effective letting the players actively ask questions to collect information rather than just passively receiving them. Another thing we want to explore is how to structure meaningful conversations. When we began testing with 5 players, it was packed and a bit too chaotic that people would find it hard to join the conversations at times. We adjusted to 3 players where it allowed a more balanced and natural conversation where testers can think out loud and discuss where they find interesting or confusing. Lastly, we will keep exploring how we could translate these actions into our experience and achieve our transformational goal. Next, I'll hand it off to Simon about CivRep's art.
Thanks, Annie. So during the early stage of our playtest, we used this famous portrait as the city representative. Although it brings a lot of fun to player by simply role-playing the celebrities, we do realize that this mindset would affect player decision-making process. So currently, we use these cartoony and abstract faces, aiming to make civic engagement more approachable and to provide player a feeling of being a representative that excel in some social topics. We also got a lot of feedback from our last playtest, and to further iterate on those characters, we'll separate those portraits with their identities, while provide player with more freedom to pick their own character and address more on diversities. For the environment, there are two different scenes in our playtest. The first one is the office, where the representative gather information about the upcoming issue by interact with city map, mailbox, and computer. The other one is the city council, where the player will stay together and discuss about a topic. We use this diorama style for both scenes. For design perspective, we found it's a very good way to show all the interactive elements within a limited space, and also enhance the sense of engagement for player as they see their character wandering around the room while collecting data. Our next step on the environment will be iterate and test these scenes on mobile screen since it's our final target platform. Next, I'll hand over to Jisa to talk about our tech problem.
Thank you, Simon. So we use the Air Console in the project. Air Console is an online video game console. Users can use their smartphones as gamepads. Making a mobile game requires a lot of time on user interface because phones have small display sizes. We wanted to focus on transformational game design, less on implementing UI. For mobile controllers, we had two main problems. The first problem is a heavy workload. For now, we have 12 different layouts and have 30 mobile pages to display. The second problem is frequent design changes. Because we work on the game design and test it for the whole semester, we need to be flexible. CivRep programmers' main goal is fastly building a minimum viable product for a playtest. It'll help us verify our hypothesis and make iterations. We simplified mobile UI because we need to use JavaScript and CSS, which are not the best tools to make a game. So we decided to use Buttons UI. Players can use buttons to interact. Usually, programmers love to change everything to code as much as possible, but we decided to use images instead of coding everything because it is easy to apply and we can implement elaborately designed controllers. By doing this, we are able to focus on fast prototyping, and it allows us to iterate the design into the game rapidly. Next, Martin will talk about system design for CivRep.
Thanks, Jason. Now I would like to talk about how system design can help us with fast prototyping. There are two methods that can help us. The first one is modular implementation, and the second one is centralized data management. We can break down our game into many separate parts. On the mobile controller side, there are several different layouts, and each layout contains its own logic and rarely overlaps with the other. On the Unity side, each stage along this decision-making process has a standalone scene. The switching between scenes in Unity and the controller layouts is largely depending on the messages sent from either Unity to mobile or from mobile to Unity. And the setup of these messages is independent of both Unity scene and the controller layout. Therefore, we're able to quickly substitute the old layouts and the scenes with new ones without hurting the overall structure. For example, if we're not really happy about the old city council scene, we can easily create a new one and replace the old one with it, and the game still runs as smoothly as it was. Another big part for fast prototyping is to have efficient and clever data management. We're building a complex system that each action our player takes will have a direct impact on their stats.
And each build they decide to pass or not will change the CD in many different ways. This means that we're dealing with many metrics and many numbers. So storing this design data at one place is a good practice that can save us a lot of time in iterations. We only need to come here to change our numerical design. Next, Yuji will wrap up our presentation.
Thanks, Martin. So for CivRep, our key metrics are client requirements, playtesting, and documentation. As a discovery project, we must prototype, playtest, and iterate rapidly in order to explore what works and what doesn't, while keeping our client's end goal, a mobile single-player civic learning app, in mind. Finally, we will document our findings carefully and pass it on to the next step team so they can continue to successfully develop the app. In terms of timeline, we'll be playtesting on a bi-weekly basis and focus on documentation in the final few weeks so that our final handoff is smooth and helpful for our client. We began with an in-person multiplayer prototype and are setting up to convert it into a single-player experience. We will continue using Air Console to prototype different design ideas and further explore how we can translate player-to-player interactions into an engaging single-player environment and pass on our findings to the next step team. Thank you. We are CivRep, and we're exploring transformational game design that will create civically engaged citizens. We're now open for questions.
All right, congratulations, team. Great job. So question, oh, Ralph's got a question. Go ahead, Ralph, and then Dave can help moderate.
Yeah, thank you. So have you guys had the opportunity to actually talk to someone who's in the trenches, a politician who's actually working in the trenches with this sort of idea on a city level? Have you had that opportunity?
That is one of the next things we're planning to do. We haven't had the opportunity.
Okay, great. A good friend of mine is a Pittsburgh City Councilwoman who's very, very much interested in civic outreach and civic education in the community. So I will, if you're interested, I'll hook you guys up.
That would be fantastic. Thank you, Ralph.
All right, cool.
Go ahead, Jesse.
So you guys are making this change from multiplayer to single player. What do you think your biggest risk is? What are you most worried about?
One thing is like one of the biggest attraction of the current experience is like you can play with your friends. Like even when you're not interested in a topic, it's fun to play with a friend. But like we want to like audience that are not exactly originally interested in the topic is actually the biggest target audience we want to reach, that we want to let them know that this is approachable, this is not as boring as you seem. So like finding what could motivate these audience would be like one of our biggest challenge, that you have to find it fun even without your friends playing with you.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike?
Yeah, but both you and Activate, another ETC project, are working in political awareness. Have you learned from Activate, and has Activate learned from you? Are you guys talking to each other?
A bit. We were and we read each other's blogs. Like we read all the other projects blog, and I personally have been talking with Beck, who is on Activate team. So we've been seeing how each other is approaching the topic and issues, and share like what we've learned with each other, and we invite each other to play test for our project. And we'll keep doing more.
Time for one more. All righty then. Congratulations, team. Good job with your half presentation. So you can turn your cameras and mics off. We'll get you unspotlit. And I will look for Archive Dive.
Good morning. We
All
are,
right, there you all are. Whenever you're ready.
yeah, we're ready. Yeah. So good morning. We are Team Archive Dive, and I am Anjali. Our team consists of UX designers, artists, and programmers. Our project instructors are Michael, Crystal, and Ralph Vitocchio. Our client, the History Makers, is a nonprofit research and educational institute committed to preserving and making accessible the untold stories of the African Americans. They have a digital archive of 150,000 stories from around 3,000 African American people in the form of first-person interviews. What we are doing for them is creating a visual and interactive web experience that will encourage new audience to use their digital archive. Our target demographic is 20 to 29 years old. The goal of our project is to create a playful experience and make the large set of data easily accessible. By the end of the semester, we will be delivering a web experience for the desktop and the mobile, along with other documentation work. Our experience is a two-part experience. The first part is a media player, and the second part is inspired from a library. The first part is a video projector with inbuilt filter rings, which the user can adjust to find new results. The design and animation of this part will make the interactions very intuitive. The goal of this part is to make the content very easily accessible in a very few clicks. The second part will allow the user to see a larger set of history makers. We will make this part visually attractive by making it 3D. Here, the user can freely navigate. The goal of this part is to make the user feel the size of the data and let them know that there are so many stories from so many people. These are the metrics of our project. First is quality assurance, where we will be focusing on the robustness and code review. The second is interactivity, where we will be focusing on the flow mechanics, the progress curve, immersion, engagement, and user experience. And the third is prototyping, where we will be focusing on the iteration and variations for our product. Now I will be passing on to Yui to talk about our user research.
Thank you, Anjali. So we came up to insights based on the interviews and the field studies. The first one is compare with learning knowledge from primary sources. Young people prefer put everything together with their own interpretation. And second is people would like to start looking for a subject that they're familiar with. From the observation, we found 3 pinpoints. So users might be overwhelmed and not sure where to start when they're browsing the digital archive. And the young people have difficulty finding personal relatable stories. And for the visual, it's not really easy engaged by their format and visuals. So we came up with 3 user needs. They need to get content quick and direct, and also build a personal connection with historical figures. For the whole experience, it should include fun and surprising fact. So for a solution, we have 3 points also. The first is we need to gather users' personal data to create a unique and a fun interactive experience as a starting point for finding personal relatable stories and relevant historical figures. And then also we need like user quick content of concise and accurate information. And third is enhance the visual experience to engage young users' interest in order to explore more possibilities. So we created two kind of personas. The first is Aiden. He's a senior college student who studies literature. The recent Black Lives Matter makes him realize he's lacking of the knowledge of African American history. But he doesn't know where to start with with, and he doesn't know any of the history makers. And the second is Natasha. She's pursuing a degree in heritage studies. He uses history maker set to search resources. However, she found it challenging in research due to the fact of all the information can often be limited, depends on the topic of choice. So she wants to connect with history makers from her own perspective in order to have a deeper understanding of research under similar movements that we can relate to everyone's story. Now Lauren will talk about our quarter feedback.
So at quarters, we had this storyboard for an idea that involved using constellations as a metaphor for exploring the history makers. And some of the feedback we got on this was like that the mechanic was like a good direction to head in. The curation of a large data set and the simple and quick interactions is something we're trying to keep in our new designs. However, the client really didn't like this idea, mainly because the theming was completely unrelated to the African-American community, which was kind of a blind spot we had. So some of the feedback from the faculty on that was like improving our client communication so we can like convey our like ideas and intentions better, and so we can also understand like their expectations better. The next thing is that we really needed to start prototyping and playtesting. Our project is a deliverable, and we also still haven't gone through like several ideas and making sure that it's actually usable as a like its own product on both mobile and desktop. And the last thing is feedback on theming. We got a lot of references and resources, but the main thing was that we needed to reach out to the Black community more. So we emailed some relevant student orgs, and we have some playtests lined up with them. At sit-downs, we got a lot of similar feedback, but a big thing was realizing that our experience is more about browsing than searching. So that's what our interactions have been based around. And also that quotes and keywords are a good way to catch people's attention to be interested in the content. And lastly, that heritage was a good foundation for a theme. So far, we've mainly been focusing on iterating on the interaction, but hopefully in a few weeks, we'll get to adding in the theming and more like specific keywords and content. Now I'll let Sichi talk about our current progress.
Okay, thanks, Lauren. I will talk about what happened, what we have done from the first week to the half. So at the beginning, first we did a lot of user interview. We interviewed a lot of young people, so we figure out, so we can define our problem. And we also look at many related work, such as projects and websites to get a reference and inspiration. And then it's our ideation. We present 4 detailed design to our clients by providing interactive website, animated storyboard, and Unity mockups. Our first idea is this constellation. We already show it in our quarter. And we also have this second idea that you create your own album, and we find a history maker related to this album. And we also have the third and fourth idea, the 3D timeline and 3D library, because we want to put more like playful interaction into our experience. So we also did a lot of prototypes in this stage. For example, we have our tech demo to ensure, because we want to build a responsive 3D web experience, so we explore many techniques to make it more easier. And our second prototype is a questionnaire prototype based on our quarter feedback. We want to relate yourself to the history maker based on your answer to the question. Our third prototype is we put a lot of history maker in a big network. And for 3D navigation, we have 4 different versions to try which one is better, which works, which is not. So then we have start from week 5. We have 1 version each week. So every week we develop 1 version and we playtest it and we get feedback, we iterate it and move to the next version. So week 5, we have our first version. So in this first version, we have two parts. The first part is a record player, and the second part is we have many headshots in 3D space. You can navigate it. And based on feedback, we feel we need to iterate on visuals, and also we will try to combine two parts. So then we have our version 2, which is our latest version. I will introduce by a short video of our demo. So after the introduction page, you will go to this 3D scene. You will see a 3D projector with 3 dials. You can rotate these dials. So this dials works as a filter. So when you change different value of filter, you can get different person. And there's also a small blue button. And after you click this button, you will shuffle the projector and get a random history maker. Or you have something specific in your mind. Let's say you are like look at the history maker at the birth decade 1930 and birth region Southwest, and who is also a music maker. Then you will get the result. So after come to this interface, you will learn more details about this person. Where in the center there's a video for the interview. And also we provide some details such as the name, category, his favorite food, color, time of year. And also there's a playlist. We find other related history maker based on this person. At the corner, there's the explore button. So after you click this button, you will go to a 3D scene. There's also a filter in this scene, and you can use your mouse to drag to navigate into this 3D scene. So we try to present a different view by this way. And you can use your mouse to zoom in and zoom out. After zoom out, you can have a bird eye view to see there are so many history makers. By doing this, we want you to have a feeling that there are so many stories, so many history makers. And if you are interested in a specific person, you can click the tile and click the play button. Then you will go back to the part 1 and learn the details of this person. And now I want to introduce Shiwen to talk more about our future plan.
Yeah, so thanks Sushi for sharing the current prototype. So as Sushi mentioned, we have like 2 versions ready. So for the version 1, we play test with 3 people. For the version 2, we tested with 2 people, and we'll continue to do so. We plan to hold like 3 to 4 playtests each week for each version. And our playtesters mainly come from ETC students, and some also come from the CMU Center for Student Diversity and Inclusion. And some are like young users of the History Makers Digital Archive website. There are also some risks and challenges in our project. First of all, since our project is the delivery project, we need to make sure we leave at least 1 week for the final polish and handoff. And we want to make sure our website is attractive and intuitive for the young user to use. So in order to do that, we need to pre-test open to iterate our prototypes. And last, our clients also requires a mobile version. So that means we also need to leave some time for developing mobile version as well. Here's our agenda for the rest of the semester. So currently we are at week 7. We have our prototype version 2 ready, and we prepare for the half presentation. For the week 8, we will have our version 3 ready, and we will finish the mobile design as well, and try to combine the 2 parts into 1 project. In the week 9, we have our version 4 ready, and we'll try to add some sound to it. In the week 10, we have our prototype version 5 ready, and that will be our final prototype. So at week 11, we'll assign some wrap-up work, which includes some trailer videos and modems. Week 12, we will prepare for the soft opening. And for the week 13, we will do some final polish, code review to check for the robustness of the final website. And for the week 14, we'll prepare for the finals. So in summary, we want to create a playful and polished experience for 20 to 29 years old. And we want to make sure we have a web experience that attracts them to the History Maker Digital Archive website. So that's it for the presentation. Now we are open for any questions.
All right, congratulations. Good job, team. Any questions, just throw them in chat. Dave will help moderate. Go for it, Ricardo.
question about your theming and your interactions. There's a possibility that once you guys do settle on a theme, that might influence or change some of your interaction design. How are you guys planning to deal with that? How do you plan? Do you have a plan in place to deal with that? I guess how are you making decisions about your theming? I'm just a little worried about that.
I guess like once we do like a couple more playtests, we'll like have an idea of what kinds of interactions are like good to include, and then like from those bits and pieces, I think we can like find a theme that like we'll have a library of features that we can apply to a theme we pick.
So to add on that, we are now considering like any like racial theme to just avoid any like potential problems. So we're trying to use some neutral theme in order to avoid those problems. So.
Carl, your question?
Yeah, I was curious. You mentioned your client and interactions with them, but other than saying it's history makers, who actually are you working with? Maybe I missed that in the beginning.
What do you mean by like who like?
You mentioned client feedback, and I know your client is history makers, but is there a specific person?
Oh, we're working with Juliana Richardson.
Okay, maybe I missed that in the beginning. Thank you.
Shirley, question?
I'm wondering how your client is going to specifically market your product, because if they don't know it's out there, how are the demographic that you're trying to reach going to know about it and use it? And I know that's out of your scope, but I'm just wondering if you know how that's happening.
I think our product is more as like an extension of the website almost. So there's kind of a little bit of an expectation that you would like come to like the website first, not like come to our experience first, I guess. Like the idea is that like the main attraction is the website kind of still.
Okay, yeah, I realize that's not part of your, I was just curious, because if you're trying to get that demographic, how are you going to let them know you have this wonderful thing for them? And that is probably something the client has planned. That's good. Thank you.
Time for one more.
Scott, go ahead.
Yeah, the History Makers user interface allows you to do a lot more searches than what you have here. But in your projector one, during playtesting, are you going to compare your interface with the existing History Makers interface to see if users like one or the other better?
Yeah, so I think we're kind of targeting two different group of people. For the current digital archive, I think those are meant for people who have already some people's name in mind. They know who they are searching for. However, for our experience, it's more for those people who have no idea like who are those history makers. So they are kind of just browsing. So they don't have a specific name in their mind. So in the future playtesting, we could do like A/B testing to test out like how quickly the people can find people that they are interested in, but not necessarily they already know the name. So to figure out if our current design is really better than the original design for people who do not have a specific person in mind. Does it
All right,
answer your
that is
question?
time. Thank you so much, team. Great job to all the teams. Congratulations to everybody completing halves. Thanks to all the students, faculty, and staff who attended across all 3 days. And thanks to the clients who were there today. I saw a lot of clients that were chatting with me. So great job, teams. And you all have a good rest of your day and take care. And faculty, we'll see you in the grading Zoom. Thanks, everyone. Take care.